Hello, Marty Wolf. How are you doing today?
Joe Redding, another exciting podcast with our good friend. Well, I won't even say his name. I'm going to let you do that formal introduction. This is exciting. I'm thrilled he's back.
It is. We got him back. We have the distinct pleasure today of catching up with Jake Hall, the manufacturer Millennial. For our listeners who may not know Jake, he's an advocate for automation, the skilled trades, and the future workforce. He is revolutionizing the way people and companies present themselves through social media and the adoption of new technologies. With over 100,000 followers on LinkedIn, he ignites conversations about the latest in automation and technology to excite the current and future workforce on automation. You may not know this. Well, you probably know this due to his hat. He's an avid Cubs fan. He loves barbecue, and he enjoys watching rocket launches from Florida. So hey, Jake, how you doing?
I love that, like, just complete split of like random things that are in there, and then rocket launches as well. You know, it's a lot of fun. Man, it's great. It's great to catch up with you guys again. Oh man, it's been a very exciting year in the industry with a lot of things happening, a lot of unknowns, but you know that's what we're here to talk about today.
Yeah. Before we get into that, so we talk about rocket launches. How many rocket launches have you actually seen?
5.
Five.
Seen five of them, and then in person. I mean, for me, I love anytime Blue Origin or SpaceX or Relativity or Rocket Labs or whoever's putting a launch. I'm trying to catch a live stream of it, and then I got my friend works at NASA down in Houston, so I head down there and we hang out at Johnson Space Center. He's Capcom for the NASA group, so he's like, if you know who Capcom is like in Apollo 13, the famous, Houston, we have a problem. Capcom is Houston, so he's the guy that talks back and forth with the astronauts every single day when he's on shift out there. So a lot of fun things. Where space is a big hobby of mine.
Yeah, we live here in Delaware, not too far from Wallops Island, which is a NASA base. And I've seen from a distance, you can't get really close, but from a distance, a few rocket launches. So it is pretty cool. It's cool to watch.
It's a lot of fun, man. When you feel that vibration and that sonic boom coming down, once a booster's coming down and landing next to you, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, for sure. All right, man. Hey, so let's catch up, man. So what's been going on, over the last, 6-7 months? Because for our other listeners, the last time you were on and we spent time together was 2023, right? So over 2 years plus past that.
Has it been that long already? Good.
It has been. Time is absolutely flying, So,
unreal.
Yeah, and at that time, I went back and looked at show notes. We felt like it was a big deal. You had 75,000 followers on LinkedIn, over 1 million plus, views, all that great stuff, right? You just eclipsed the 100,000 followers on LinkedIn. I mean, and it's a testament to like what you're doing. You're front and center of so many really cool trade shows, large robot OEM partner events. You're doing wonderful things. So let's just catch everybody up on like what you've been doing the last year or so.
Yeah, I mean, for me, trade shows and conferences are always the forefront of what's keeping me busy. I'm doing 40, 50 events a year between associations, keynote speaking, going to a wide variety of trade shows. Last week I was at FabTech in Chicago. This week I'm heading down to Atlanta and SPS. The following week there is the Humanoid Robot Forum that's happening in Seattle, and then then there's the Fathom event happening in Wisconsin. The week after that is PAC Expo, and then the end of that week we are headed back to Northeast Pennsylvania to hang out with you guys and have a good discussion out there talking about what's new. So I mean, and that's just September. Then we dive into October and November this year, and we still have 15, 20 events on the docket for the rest of the year.
Oh my gosh, you are one busy world traveler. Did you go to Automatica or one of those?
Yeah. So we did the Automation UK show, which was in London, which is north of London and Birmingham, and then we did Automatica, which was in Munich about a month after that. So really, we did all the big automation shows in the U.S. and in Europe this year, and then IREX is still in the docket for heading to Tokyo this year. Going to try and make it out to that one. And next year we got more events planned, so it's busy. But events are just the events are just part of what we're doing. For me, I love the community events and the conversations that we get to have. While it's great to travel, it's great to be local as well. So Joe, we were just talking this morning on the schedule and stuff like that. And so after we wrap up this call, my two girls, we're hopping into the car, we're bringing a bunch of robot dogs, and tomorrow we're gonna have 2,500 middle school and high school students going to a local high school to meet up to learn about manufacturing, learn about automation. So I'm bringing my robot dogs there. I'm teaming up with a local control system company that's out there as well. We're going to have a booth together. And, it's one of those things where it's great to travel all around, but at the same time, man, it's great to be in your backyard with local students, with local teachers, just talking about the industry. And it's always great to have that balance of what's happening on an international scale, what's happening on a national scale, and then, what's happening 10 miles from your house in your local community. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and that's where you can advocate the best, right? When you're at the local level. Yeah, for sure. Get that hands-on, face-to-face, right?
Absolutely. That's where you get the most connection, right? Like there's a place for everything. There's a place for large trade shows. There's a place for social media. But when you're able to go out there and have a one-on-one connection with groups of students on they're freshman and sophomore year of high school. They don't know what they want to do when they grow up. But if you can have a 50-minute conversation with them and talk about, well, hey, we work with robots. Robots make jobs easier for people. They make robots make jobs safer for people. You can go out there and, hey, you can go and you can become part of the local robotics program. Once you graduate high school, you can go to GRCC and get a associates in robot programming. You can go join an apprenticeship. You can go to Grand Valley and get an engineering degree. And all this stuff is happening 15 minutes from where you live right now. There's plenty of opportunities for you to go, and the jobs pay well. They're stable. There is innovation. They make you be creative. They make you think. They make you either self-learn or learn as a group. It's just one of those things where those opportunities that are available when you have those conversations, I think, make the kids think more, because a lot of times, we're still facing the same thing. Every parent that's out there is saying, I want my kid to go to college. I want my kid to do this. I want my kid to do that. And it's one of those things where, is it really best for your kid? So the whole idea is when we have conversations with these kids, we want to make these kids aware of follow your passion. If it's through creativity or if it's through design or if it's through engineering, at the end of the day, manufacturing has so many offers where we have, the business guy I'm going with, he's not an engineer, but he now owns a manufacturing automation integration company that has 30 employees, that he did not, he went there he went to school for an automotive tech degree is what he went to school for, and it's one of those things where you can be successful. You can have a business at any skill set, any level that you go into once you graduate high school.
Yeah, for sure. I was just talking with a husband and wife. They're very good friends of mine, and father, mother. And they're like, my kid's getting ready to go to school. He wants to go visit these colleges, has no idea what he wants to study, but he feels like he needs to go to college. And we're worried about him, saddled with this debt. And this is like real conversation I'm having, right face to face. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I talk about this often. We talk about the manufacturing. We talk about skilled trades. There's so many other avenues in which kids nowadays, young adults nowadays can go to. They don't necessarily have to go to college. It's not for everyone. And it may not always pan out. Where manufacturing, you can work your way up, be very successful. And to your point, you don't have to just stay a manufacturer. You can own a business, right? You can just take it to the next level.
In manufacturing, you don't even have to work with the equipment. You could be in marketing. You could be in sales. You could be in accounting. You could do HR. Like, manufacturing is an industry of dozens of professions and dozens of different types of jobs. And that's the big thing where the whole goal is we still on a daily basis, even though we're in the year 2025, we still need to have conversations with parents and with students on the opportunities that exist. And that's why I'm so excited to head back out to where you guys are, and 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now, head back to Northeast Pennsylvania and have a conversation with these manufacturers, with these companies, with these education facilities, and saying, listen, we're making progress, but we need to change. We need to look at automation as a tool not only to drive productivity on what's happening on the manufacturing floor, but also look at the technology as a outreach tool, as a tool to advocate what your industry is doing, right? We went out there a couple years ago and we watched and learned how these icy lemonades and these icy cones are made inside of a manufacturing floor that's 15 minutes from your guys' headquarters. And it's one of those things when you talk to a kid about, listen, there's robots that are grabbing these off of a long conveyor. They're mixing them in variety packs that are then getting shipped to your local ballpark. You have the opportunity to work on those. These are being made right in your backyard, right in backyard of Northeast Pennsylvania. You could do that. Oh, you like militaries? You like playing Call of Duty like this? Well, hey, did you know that there's one of America's largest defense contractors that's right in your backyard making 155 millimeter shells? And they're using automation and robots and technology to do it. And it's one of those things is until we have conversations with local communities from the manufacturer side to the education side to the school side to the community, people need to realize that we just need to share more. We need to talk about what we're doing. We need to talk about the success stories. And, and that's what we did with PSA Systems 2 years ago when we came out there. I mean, you guys were ahead of the time coming out and saying, hey, we want to highlight PSA. We're going to go into a local community college. We're going to meet with students. We're going to talk about what they're doing with the robotics programs here, all the robots that you pushed in through AVB that's in their demo room at Lackawanna College. That is what matters to a community. And it's one of those things that's what moves stuff forward.
Yeah, Joe, why don't we point out you are in fact coming to our backyard, as you've said, and it's a manufacturing day at an organization called NEAPERC, which stands for Northeastern Pennsylvania Industrial Resource Center, and that is Friday, October 3rd, 2025, at the Mohegan, Pennsylvania in Wilkes-Barre. We're excited to have you, Jake.
Day. And it's manufacturing day. It is literally the day for manufacturing day in the U.S. So it works out perfect, right? You're hosting a manufacturing event in a local community, bringing local manufacturers together to talk about manufacturing. It's like the trifecta of what this industry is about.
Yeah. Excellent.
Perfect. Well, excellent. Well, that's wonderful. So how about we twist it up a little bit and start getting into some really technology discussions, right?
Yeah.
So you actually just said you're going to a humanoid expo in Seattle.
Yeah. So the Humanoid Robot Forum, which is happening in Seattle next week. That's out there. The A3 Business Forum puts it on. The A3 Association for Advancing Automation puts that on. And it's one of those things, right? You look at technology, there's always technology, right? I was at FabTech last week in Chicago. And, the biggest thing, right? We're seeing more robots. We're seeing more cobots on the manufacturing floor. There's more companies that are pushing AI as a solution-based tool to make it easier to integrate robots and maintain robots on the floor. And we're seeing technology. We're seeing technology when it comes to companies wanting to use AI to make stuff simpler. We're seeing the humanoid robots. We're a long ways off. We're a long ways off for humanoid robots still. And I think, while the buzz is out there, we see a lot of videos. Everyone's seeing probably the boxing videos, the boxing humanoid robots that are coming out of Unitree. And that's great. But at the end of the day, companies have learned pretty quickly they don't adopt automation unless it gets a return on investment. And right now we're at a point where humanoid robots are being designed for a very dynamic and flexible work environment. At the end of the day, within manufacturing and warehouse and logistic facilities, creating a designed, dedicated robotic system is going to create the most ROI out of an automation project. And eventually we will see humanoid robots that will be more dexterous, more dynamic, more flexible to work really in a human environment alongside humans. We are 5-10 years out from really seeing that at a level that makes sense for most manufacturers.
Okay, and that you're saying that because you're hearing that from other individuals in the marketplace or in the know they all kind of
Yeah,
have that same kind of
that's
feeling,
that's
Jake.
that's directly from humanoid robot manufacturers that I talk to.
Okay.
That's directly from the companies that are doing case study testing right now with these humanoid robot manufacturers. And that's just when we go to these safety conferences, when we talk about human collaboration, right? If you have a 120-pound robot that could be picking up a piece of metal, that is carrying it around, that could create a fault, that battery drops, and then that robot's arms take that piece of metal, fling it up in the air, and that's a stamp part, and there's an operator right behind them, and that thing cuts its neck. Right? Like, it's one of those things where, yes, we can make robots flexible, dynamic, picking, but it's a whole nother level to make humanoid robots safe in an environment that makes it safe. Like, if you cut power on an industrial robot right now, it just locks up. You have pneumatic tooling and valves that will make it so, if you have air clamps, right, it'll still keep pressure. You cut power, it's still going to hold on to that vise or that box that you're picking, even if you lost complete power. And it's one of those things with a human robot that's running on its own power source, its own system. How do you guarantee safety? And I think that's just the biggest thing at the end of the day, where until we see, these robot manufacturers can guarantee safety, we're going to see, at least in the U.S., I think in other countries, they might put safety more in a back burner because they want to be first rather than the safest.
Mm-hmm.
But I think in the U.S., the last thing you want to do is with these companies who are getting millions, if not billions of dollars in venture capital funds, they don't want their name to be the first one where it hops up on Fox News or CNN, humanoid robot in factory kills worker.
Oh, no.
Like,
Yeah, sure.
and here's the thing. It's not a matter of if. It's a matter of when it'll happen. It's going to happen. It's going to happen one day. Someday, an accident's going to happen, just like we have with industrial robots. That's like the same way we have with presses and other manufacturing environments. Accidents happen. But I think at the end of the day, it's one of those things, I think in today's day of age, these companies are going to have to do a ton of due diligence to really make it make sense for them when it comes to the humanoid robots. But, that's enough in the humanoid robots. When we talk about other solutions that are out there, collaborative robots, industrial robots, mobile industrial robots, there's a lot of, they're becoming cheaper. They're becoming easier to integrate. Manufacturers and end users are seeing an easier ROI justification to deploy these solutions on the floor and maintain those solutions on the floor. At the end of the day, what you needed 15 years ago to be able to have you needed to have an engineer. You needed to have a 4-year degree engineer who could maintain and run this robot. Now, you have kids out of high school who have programming experience, who already have design experience, that can log into a UR or a Fanuc CRX or an ABB GOFA and pick it up, learn it, watch YouTube videos, and they can have a robot programming doing some pick and placing in an afternoon. That's the scale of growth that we have seen in the industry when it comes to the ease of integration of these solutions.
Yeah, and then so ISO, right, just came out with the new collaborative standards, right? So this new application, right? So they're focusing more on application, not the robot. What's your take on that? Because I think that absolutely makes sense from an integration standpoint and doing a risk assessment standpoint. Understanding the application, I think, was glossed over way too much in years prior.
I love it. Define that there's no longer collaborative robots, there's collaborative applications. I think that defines things for companies to better select. Do they want to go the industrial robot route? Do they want to go, the defined cobot arm route from different manufacturers? But it's one of those things like, even from Universal Robots, what they're pushing out there for UR20 right now, even though people look at it as a cobot, man, it's still reaching 5 meters per second speed. It's still got a ton payload, ton of duty cycle, even though it's a cobot, it can keep up with industrial robot applications. And many people would argue that it has a much better UI interface when it comes to the pendant and what they do with being able to easily, connect and disconnect, and bring other companies, manufacturers, products in line for grippers, cameras, feeders, etc. So I love the idea of those regulations. I think A3 did something similar with there, or maybe it's the same thing, earlier this year where it was defined where, we're taking the idea of a safe cobot and making a safe application. I think that's just, it makes the most sense, and it's the best direction that we can have moving forward to, protect people, protect applications, but also as we move into a more humanoid robot environment in the future, it's humanoid robots won't be defined as safe. It's the application that they're being used in is what will be defined as a safe, solution.
So you don't think that because of this new definition that it's going to degrade the sales of cobots? You don't think so?
No,
Okay.
no, not at all. I mean, because at the end of the day, I look at cobots have advantages that industrial robots don't have, and industrial robots have advantages that cobots don't have. And I think it's one of those things where, manufacturers, I think true success will be defined as not trying to pick a product and then make that fit into the problem that they're trying to solve. Create a problem, find the problem that you're trying to solve, and then pick the best product that's going to go into that. Too often I think companies will say, hey, I want to use brand XYZ, and how can this best fit in, rather than saying, here's what I'm trying to do of different brands, X or Y or Z, what makes the most sense for me. And, and then it goes into a variety of things. Do you have previous experience with different robot manufacturers that are already on the floor? What does your local support look like? How does that plug into existing stuff? Hey, if you want to use a Lincoln welder on your thing, well, maybe you should look at a robot that easily integrates with, Lincoln. It's one of those things where I think in a world where I don't want to say every robot arm is the same, what really drives success is for manufacturers is the ecosystem of support and partners and plugins that truly define what success would look like from an arm. But it's not just an arm. I know we've been talking about robot arms, but it could be everything. It could be from your CMMS to your ERP to your MES to your software solutions to the vision cameras. Right? We live in the world now in the 21st century where we can learn how to program pretty much everything by just popping on this thing called YouTube.com. And be able to learn how to program and change and modify stuff at the end of the day. So at the end of the day, it goes back to what makes the most sense. What manufacturer is going to give you the most love and support? We have different color robots that each have different ambitions and goals. And, you look behind me on the second shelf right here, you have the blue, the green, the orange, the white, the yellow, the other yellow, you have 30 different robot manufacturing brands right over my head. Each one has great value to the industry. And I'm not going to, at the end of the day, I'm not here to tell you which one to pick over the other one. I'm here to say, hey, here's your options and here's great values for each and every one of them. And then you guys, as a systems integrator who work with a variety of robots that I've seen over the years, that's a great value that you could bring. So at the end of the day, you talk to the manufacturer says, I want this color on the floor. PSA Systems can deploy that solution and make it successful.
Right. Yeah. And, I was surprised. I went out to Lincoln Automation. You mentioned Lincoln a little bit earlier there. And I looked at their cobot solutions for welding, whether it's a robot on a cart, robot on a rail with auxiliary axes, the ease of use of programming blew my mind away. I really didn't have any idea, because traditionally PSA is not we don't deploy cobots. We're more in an industrial. We look at applications. By the time we nail down the scope of work and what that application needs to do, it always goes to like an industrial robot. So I was really surprised. So you're right. It had a wonderful UI, amazing UI, plugins to work directly with the power supply. So you get travel speed, current, voltage, amperage, all that. It was fantastic. I really liked it.
I look at it as, when you and I, we did that tour out there with that company that was making the brush solutions that clean inside those oil pipes. You know,
Galaxy,
and you look out there and you had a person in the back of the shop that was probably laying down 100 feet of beat a day on different stuff. And I'm like, what happens when that guy retires? That guy was like 55, 60 years old to look like. You know, what happens when that person retires? And what's next? What's your next opportunity? Are you going to find a skilled welder in Northeast Pennsylvania that's willing to pick that up? Or is it make more sense now, while that guy's still there, have a person underneath him, look at automation, work alongside him, have him do the skill step, and then the robot where you just got to lay a bead on this massive circle? Yeah. Does it make sense to have a robot do that? You know, and that's where, you know, the question keeps, you know, I always encourage manufacturers, if you haven't revisited a problem in the last 6 months, you should look at it again, because that's how quickly this industry is changing. I mean, from how quickly cobalt welding solutions have evolved in the last 6 months to a year to 2 years ago. You walk on FabTech show floor last week at FabTech, you look at 15, 20 different automated cobalt welding solutions here. You're just like, man, this stuff isn't, I want to say easy, but man, it sure has been simplified a lot in the last couple years.
It certainly has. And then more of the focus then turns on fixturing, right? Making sure your tooling and your fixturing is completely spot on. Because then the programming really was very, very simple. In my estimation, it's crazy. So that's awesome. Yeah. So great technology discussion there. It was awesome to catch up with you for this last half hour. But as we get to close out here, what's next for Jake Hall, the manufacturing millennial? Besides the trade show events, just like for Jake Hall, what's next for Jake?
Yeah, what's next for Jake? Oh man, that's a great question. Well, next for me is going to be going to watch the Chicago Cubs play in the World Series this year. You know, that's on the radar. You know, but all jokes aside, you know, for me, it's one of those things where it's so hard to say what's next. Because if you would have asked me a few years ago, saying, "Hey, Jake, do you envision yourself being a full-time, you know, guy who just travels around, goes to shows, to events?" I would have said, no way, because no one out there is going to do it, you know. But proved myself wrong. You know, you guys helped me do that. You guys helped me prove me wrong. And, you know, it's one of those things. So I guess whatever's next for me, I'm going to try and be there and share those stories along the way and continue to talk about how manufacturing's fun.
That's awesome. Hey, well, best of luck with those 2,500 students that you're going to be entertaining and advocating for. You know, is that tomorrow? You said you're doing that?
Yeah, it's tomorrow. So what I'll do is I'll try and get you guys some pictures, and then if you guys listen to this, I'll try and get some of those pictures down in the comment section below of where this is going to be posted, so you guys can check out what we were talking about during this episode.
Oh, that'd be awesome. All right. Hey, buddy, I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for joining Marty and I. It's been awesome.
It's been great, guys. We'll see you in a couple weeks.
See you in a couple weeks.
Catch up.